welcome back to Mimi's Counter. Today we're making my famous breakfast burritos. They're famous according to my children who love them and my husband who loves them. They started back in the early 80s when breakfast burritos with sausage and hot spicy eggs weren't regularly available in the grocery store or at Whataburger. So this is my recipe I used to make, and we would sell them. My husband would take them to the construction site where he worked, and I would make 60 of them a week, and we would sell them for $1 a piece, and that was my little mad money. And so I want to share this recipe with you because to this day my kids love them, and every time I tell them we're about to have some breakfast burritos, everybody comes running. Okay, first we're going to need a pound of sausage. This sausage comes in a roll, like Jimmy Dean's or Tennessee. There's many brands. They're all fine for this. You're going to cook them down and break them down like you would hamburger for spaghetti. See, I'm breaking it down. This one was frozen. We're going to break that down, and then we're going to add 2 cans. I'm probably going to drain these a little bit because they got a lot of water. These are, I put 2 brands on here on purpose because, again, brand does not matter. These tomatoes with the chilies, I use the mild. I do not use the hot. You can get real hot real fast with these, and you don't. I'm going to add Tony's seasoning, which has got a lot of hot pepper in it, and I'm going to put the Tony's seasoning in the eggs and the sausage. So again, it's all about taste, but don't overdo it. You want them for breakfast, and you don't want to eat them and have indigestion at 3 in the afternoon. Often, especially when meat is frozen or is cooking and it comes out in big clumps, it's hard to break up. And this little guy right here, it just breaks it up. Matter of fact, it breaks it up so well that be careful or you will have grains of meat. But this, as you can see, just does the job in no time. And you have the consistency you want, nice and evenly browned meat without a whole lot of spinning and banging and spinning and banging. This just does a quick job of it. I love this little tool. I sent one to my children and they laughed at it until they used it, and now they use it, of course, all the time. Because as you can see, I am now done chopping the meat in just that amount of time. Next, we add a pepper. In this case, I had an orange pepper. Traditionally, I use a green pepper, but I'd say use anything you have in your fridge. I don't think the folks I'm cooking for are going to know the difference. But it's entirely up to you. Okay, now I'm going to add that pepper into that meat. Yum. Lickety split. Listen to that sizzle. Just a little tiny bit here. We'll put this in the compost pile. And we're going to stir. If your meat is stuck to the bottom just a little bit, don't worry about it because we're going to pour some tomatoes in there, and that'll help pull that off. These peppers, when the peppers start letting go of some of their water, they'll help the meat pull off the bottom of the pan as well. Sort of a deglaze if you have that term in your brain. So I usually put 2 cans of this type of tomato in with the green chilies. It can be Rotel or any brand. And often I go through them and pick through because they leave the little tomato butts. Here's one. Here's a perfect one. I don't want to bite down on that. It's hard and it's chewy. And so I pick those out. I just go through real carefully and I pick them out. I may not get them all, but I get as many as I can find because I know I don't want to bite down on them. So they're about ready. The meat, the bell peppers have cooked. We're going to add the tomatoes. Now we're going to let that simmer for a little bit. Isn't it pretty? It smells so good. So after you have cooked this down a good bit and it looks a lot like this, still juicy but not crazy juicy, cook some of the liquid off. I'm simply going to pour this into a bowl to let it cool a little bit because I need this pan. Ooh, steamy. Okay, we're going to set this aside. Now we're going to take 1.5 eggs that I've already broken open. I'm going to put a good amount of butter, not too terribly much, into the pan. Set that aside. And then I'm going to add a little milk to my eggs so they will emulsify nicely. And you can hear my dog singing in the background. And then we're just going to give these eggs a quick whisk. Doesn't have to be anything more than making sure all the yolks get broken. Basically scrambled eggs. Okay, so now I have the eggs nice and beaten. I'm going to add some good old Tony's seasoning. Remember, the first ingredient in most of these pre-made seasonings is salt. Read your labels. So I add this carefully because it's got a lot of good heat in it and other yummy things, but I add it carefully because it can get salty fast. So I just sprinkle it. It's probably right around a teaspoon. I mix that into my eggs. You can use salt and pepper if you choose. This is just what I used. They're supposed to be kind of Tex-Mex, just where I started in Texas making them. And my butter is nice and sizzling. Here go the eggs. Okay. Make a little noise. Now I'm simply going to stir these. They should cook pretty fast. Hot cooktop. You don't want it to go crazy. You don't want to burn them. But it is 1.5 eggs, so there's a lot going on here. So with this amount of eggs, you might want to switch real quick to a spatula, just so you're moving the eggs in better volume across the bottom, for lack of a better term. And with the spoon, I was just grabbing a little bit, and with the spatula, I can move the eggs more evenly so that nobody is sitting on the bottom too long and getting too brown. Because eggs, as you know, they cook pretty quick. The sauce is wet, and we're going to chop these eggs up super fine. No shine. You don't want any shine on your eggs, okay? These are not your yummy, creamy scrambled eggs you're going to put on a plate. You want these nice and dry. And they're also real clumpy right now. And I could spend 1.5 days burning eggs while I break them up like this. And they're pretty done. Or I could use, come back here, you little escapee, this guy. I turned them down real low because they're pretty done. But we're just making sure. And you can see with no lapsed camera time, no breaks, no edits, no nothing, those eggs are broken up. And that, my friends, is what you want. Is to have a tool that cuts your time easily in half. Next, we're going to add the sauce. There it is, all its yumminess. Cook gets to taste. Now I'm going to go back to my spoon. I'm going to turn it off because everything's really hot. And deglaze those eggs off the bottom with the juice from those canned tomatoes. Now we have finished part one. All the sauce is made, the filling as it were, for the burritos. I want to put it in a bowl and I'm going to put it in the refrigerator and let it cool. Mainly so the eggs soak up all the juice, but also if you're making these in advance, they sit around this hot on your tortilla, you're going to have a soggy tortilla. So if you're eating them right away, go for it. But I put them in the refrigerator and let them soak up all the juice and kind of congeal. And that way when they get in the microwave or the oven to heat back up, you don't have soggy tortillas with soggy eggs inside. It makes it better. So let's put these in a bowl. As I said, if I didn't say already, this makes 20 burritos. 20 very big, full burritos. So I know you're thinking, gosh, how do you break this in half? And the answer is I've never done it, so I don't know. I'm certain the math is possible. It's just I've always made them 20 at a time. It just worked out that way. Okay, there we go. So we're going to let this cool. I'm going to cover it, put it in the refrigerator, and then when we come back, we're going to assemble our burritos. Okay, so in our brilliance, in our first recording in part one, we forgot to add some jalapenos. So, not to be outdone, I'm going to take, these are pickled jalapenos, right out of the grocery store jar. I'm not going to go crazy here. Don't want it to be too hot. I'd say that's probably enough. Maybe just a little bit more. Husband gets upset if they're too hot. And also I cheat and I put a little bit of that jalapeno vinegar in there. You three. Just a extra little pizzazz. I'm going to chop these up real fine. I'm going to stir them into it, and we're just going to move on. You'll be amazed how much this little bit amount of jalapeno can affect the heat factor and the flavor. This is about all I put in a whole pot of chili, and it makes a huge difference. All you brave people out there that put 2 and 3 jalapenos in something with all the seeds, more power to you. Okay. That's looking pretty good to me. We're just going to slide that on the knife, put it in with the eggs and the sausage. Get rid of that knife we don't need anymore. Grab my spoon, give it a stir. Now, I know it's hard for you to see, but all that juice that was floating before is now mostly absorbed into the eggs, which is exactly what we wanted. Kind of a congeal. Matter of fact, the longer it stays in the refrigerator, the better. And then you just give everybody a stir. Make sure we're all married. And then we're going to put together burritos. You ready? Here we go. First, we need a tortilla. Nice, soft, flour tortilla. Okay? I'm going to put, in this case, because we're going to do a freezer version, I'm going to put down a piece of parchment paper, because these guys can go in the freezer for not an extended amount of time, I wouldn't, but, you know, to make food for the week would be just fine. I'm going to put one little spoonful, like that. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of cheddar. And this is white cheddar, doesn't matter, but whatever cheese you like. Now, I'm going to fold the tortilla in, fold the tortilla over, give it one more little pinch in, and roll it tight. I don't even pick it up. I slide it to the corner, so it's caught immediately. This parchment paper is not cellophane. It's not super flexible, so I want to make sure I catch it all. And then I just roll it up. Now this can go in your microwave, parchment paper. I'm going to add a barrier for the freezer. This comes off when it comes out of the freezer. Aluminum foil does not go in the microwave unless you want fireworks. I don't think you do. Okay, same kind of deal. Voila. One burrito ready to go. Now, number two, we'll do one more. Piece of parchment paper, tortilla. Get a nice little spoonful of the filling. Easily leave a little bit of edge here so that it folds nicely, nice and smooth. So tasty. Yes, I'm using my fingers. A little bit of cheese. Now, in the old days, I used to only fold like this and leave this end to open because people like to pour hot sauce in there. This is less messy, is all I can say. It's your choice. Okay? And just a little more right there. They're nice and soft. They should go. If they're not soft, for some reason, you can pop them into the microwave for about 15 seconds inside of a damp paper towel. Go down there. And they'll soften right back up. That way. See, I'm keeping a good, I'm not killing it squeezing it, but I'm keeping a good tight roll so nothing escapes. Okay. Into the microwave. Into the freezer. Now you have breakfast. That somebody doesn't come in and say, Mom, what's for breakfast? You just say, go pop your burrito in the microwave and get on with your life. See how quick it is? Now I can also tell you, I used to, whoops, I forgot the tortilla because I was running my mouth too much. I used to leave the mix in one bowl and leave parts of everything ready to go because my brother doesn't want his in a tortilla. My daughter likes more jalapenos and more hot sauce. My brother likes more cheese, lots more cheese. So I left it so they can make their own DIYs, burritos, after I got everything cooked. This if you want to know the truth, is less mess for me to clean up. Because as we all know, when the kids go in the refrigerator, or the sweet dear husband, it doesn't exactly make for tidiness. So it's your choice. But if you end up making these a lot, your family will find their groove. And that, boys and girls, is how Mimi's burritos are made. I hope you enjoyed it. Love you.